So now I'm just doing what I love. I'm very blessed to be like buying apartments, working 7 hours a day if I want, being able to take a break and go to the gym with my girlfriend. That I will sell everything to not change that part of my life. Like none of the cars and toys matter. It's the time you get to spend with your loved ones.
I used to chase the ROI all the time, return on investment. And over the course of time, that has evolved into what I call return on life. Welcome here, everyone. I'm Randy Dyck on the Return on Life podcast, and it's about the return on life, not always about the ROI. And we've got a great guest that's going to share not only how to get an ROI, but what I understand of this great guest is that he's got an ROL happening as well, return on life. And my guest is Mike Mannino, and Mike has been in the real estate space since he was 19 years old. Get that, 19 years old, he bought his first house. Of course, he thought real estate as the avenue to really creating not only a return on investment, but return on life. And he is an amazing individual where he coaches and helps and mentors people in how to flip homes, how to make a lot of money in selling properties over and over again. And then, of course, investing as well. Mike is a prolific investor, some 100+ doors. So we've got just a great guest. And welcome here, Mike.
Thank you, Randy, for having me. I'm gonna take you around anytime I go into a new room. I'm gonna say Randy's gonna introduce me.
Well, introductions are really important, but you do have a beautiful story to tell. And when you've got a beautiful story, introductions are just really easy. Maybe bring our listeners up to speed. What happened at 19 in the mind of Mike to go, I'm going to
Oh.
go and buy a house? Because most 19-year-olds aren't thinking about buying property at 19.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I'll kind of recap, like you said, where I'm at now. We've bought, fix, and flip 90 homes at this point, and I own over 100 units of apartments. And if you would have told me at 19 years old I'd be here today, I would say you're crazy, you're lying. I just graduated high school with a 2.8 GPA, and I had a 2.2 GPA, and I was like, I'm gonna try to get a 3.0 and failed, right? And I was working at McDonald's, so what was going through the mindset? I'm very blessed. I want to talk about mindset just for a quick second, and I'll
Yeah.
answer your question. So at 13 years old, I was diagnosed with something called Crohn's disease, which is like an ulcer in your stomach, and it hurt really bad every time I ate. And it's something you have for the rest of your life. There's people, they live in the hospitals, they have colonoscopy bags, and they're just on a bunch of medications, always going through surgery. And at 13 years old, I was diagnosed with that disease, and I was taking 16 pills a day, steroids. That's probably why I'm 5'6", because I didn't grow from the steroids. I don't know. But and it was honestly the best experience of my life. It's a blessing that I went through this because it taught me that life is very precious at a young age. Because at 13 years old, you're not thinking about life and death. You break your leg and you could go run a marathon the next week, right? You're just like Wolverine, just healing, and you're not thinking about real life. And it taught me how precious life is and your health. Um, so I came across Jack Canfield's work, who's the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. And there's a movie and a book called The Secret, and I've seen it 18 times. And there's a part in there, there's a lady who's diagnosed with breast cancer, and they had x-rays of her breast cancer. And within 9 months but with positive affirmations and believing that she was already healed, eating right and exercise and watching comedy and doing all the right things, so her body could heal, she became cancer free within 9 months, no radiation, no cancer treatment or anything. And they had the x-ray of the before and after. And as she believed she was already healed. And hearing that story, I said, okay, if she can do it, I got nothing else to lose. Let me try this. And I just believed that I was healed. I exercised, I ate better. Um, and by 16 years old, so within 3 years, I got off of all medication. I've not been to the doctors. And uh, I don't know. I haven't been to the doctors yet to see if I am healed, but in almost 16 years, I haven't had any, remissions, or, I haven't had any issues with any stomach issues. And this is a disease you have for the rest of your life. And within 3 years, I was able to kind of cure an incurable disease. So that taught me a lot about mindset and how important it is at a very young age.
Wow, wow, that's incredible. I have a similar story. At 14, I broke my neck and woke up paralyzed.
Oh,
And and again, like you, I didn't see it as a curse. I saw it as a blessing because what it made me become, I would have never become without having that adversity in my life. And I've got this quote, and I've written a book about this as well. But adversity doesn't define who we are, but how we rise. And you're just another example of that. How adversity at a young age, I think, really shapes and molds us to become incredible men. And when we have that at childhood, there's nothing that really stops us. As we grow older and we have adversity come, I think a lot of people are told by the world that, well, it's just this is the way it is. But when we're young, we believe that in some ways we can fight through it. We can be invincible. So, wow, thank you for sharing that. That's really, really powerful. What would be the change ingredient that you would want to share then with our listeners when they hear your story, they hear my story? What is the one piece or the ingredient that you would say, if this happens, do this or take this?
you know, too, like in business can be very hard and difficult. And we are just talking about this before we recorded, and it's not always, sunshine and rainbows, and that's okay. And I always default to, at this point, a lot of things don't matter. A lot of my problems aren't problems. I don't get stressed out when a house floods, house burns down, anything, because I realize that those aren't real problems. As long as we have our health and I can eat and have shelter, that's it. Everything else is just fun and games, and how fast can I climb up this ladder? And I think that's very important to realize that, we don't have to walk 5 miles a day for clean water like
Mm.
many people do around the world today. So the problems I deal with today aren't real problems. And I realize that, and I'm very, very blessed to not have real problems. Mine are just business problems, which when we're 80 years old, and I always think about that, when we're 80 years old, doesn't matter a deal blew up, doesn't matter something didn't go the right way, or what I love about your podcast, doesn't matter you spent time with your friends and your family, and that you were fulfilled in life. And I always think about that when I'm 80 years old, does the decision matter? And 97% of the times it's no, it does not matter.
Mm. You know, you touched a little bit on it. I know that you've got a bigger purpose in life than just flipping homes. Uh,
Yeah.
you've got a why that is significantly greater than just, well, another house, another flip, another buck or two. Can you share with our listeners your why, which really ties into return on life?
Yeah. And so I'll kind of pick up too, where now 16 years old. So having this experience taught me a lot. Life can be very short, right? I know because people die at young ages, and I realized that. So everything I took was very intentional, everything I did. So at 16 years old, I started working at McDonald's 20 hours a week, which was the legal limit, with going to school 35 hours. And then at 17, I started bussing tables. 18, I started waiting tables. I saved up $14,500, bought my first house at 19 with no financial assistance from my parents. The only thing they did do is help sign for the credit because I didn't have the credit for it. But I put all the money and I fixed up the house as a foreclosure. I fixed up the house. I bought it for 67,000. And this is something I highly recommend if you're young or you have young kids. I recommend doing. In the United States, we have something called a FHA loan, where it's 3.5% down. So I was able to buy a $67,000 house. I'll never forget it. I wrote a $7,000 check for it. I was like, oh my gosh, and I had $14,000 to my name. With the insurance and closing costs, everything was like 7 grand. And I moved in the house and I rented out the other bedrooms to people I waited tables with. So at 19 years old, now they have covered my mortgage, called house hacking. I didn't realize what it was at the time. I just like, how can I get a house for free? And so they were paying my mortgage. I fixed it up. And a few short years later, at 22, I sold the house for 147,000. So I had a $65,000 check on my hand or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like 3 years of waiting tables. That's how much. And I'm still going to community college. And I'm like, oh my God, this is 3 years worth. And back then I wanted, this is why it's so important to have a big why and have a why outside yourself. But back then I wanted Bumblebee, the Camaro from Transformers. That was the hot movie back in like 2010. And because I was driving around a gold Malibu with no horn and no AC and rusted out because we're from Michigan. And everyone's like, "You gonna buy that Bumblebee? You've been wanting this thing." I was like, "Nope, I'm moving back home with mom and dad. I'm gonna humble myself, move back home with mom and dad into the bedroom I grew up in after owning a house,
Mm.
and I'm gonna try to buy another one and do this business." And a really big why that you alluded to is, um, so I grew up in the construction world because my dad is a contractor, and he was the guy putting up cabinets and floors, doors, and trim. And at this time, he was 49 years old. I'll never forget this. He came home when I was living back with mom and dad, and he came home just plopped right on the couch, dead at 4:30 in the afternoon, and he leaves at 7 a.m. to go to work. And I remember that I was like, wow, like, he's 49, he's dead tired. And I'm like, we don't have till 65 to retire, right? Especially in a physical labor job like that. And I put it on my shoulders. I had a great childhood, great parents. And I said, I morally cannot let my dad do this, you know, till 65. So I came up with this crazy idea. I was like, hey, dad, all right, I'm going to start flipping houses, which he didn't believe in. And I said, here's my bet. If I can You can make $100,000 a year working with me. You only work 20 hours a week, and it's just easy. You're not doing any of the construction, you're just driving around checking on the job sites. You have to shut down your construction business. And he's like, okay, you crazy, 22, 23-year-old. So this was my why. It was to help out my dad. And like, yes, because we went 50-50 on it. If I make if he makes 100, that means I'm making 100,000, which is great. That was my goal, to make 100,000 and not have a real job and a boss. But the bigger why I work 70 hours a week and I was willing to do that so my dad didn't have to, was to help him out. And that pushes you, when you have a why outside yourself, further and than you can imagine, because it's not for you, it's for someone else, and you don't want to disappoint anyone else, right? And I told my dad, this was the bet or the promise I made him. He didn't, he's just like, whatever. And it took until 2019. So I made him this bet like in 2017, and it took till 2019. I tried to do it in a year. It was important about setting goals. I tried to do this in 12 months and I failed. It took me 24 months. And again, this is why it's so important. It doesn't matter what, by the time I'm 80, it doesn't matter. It took 12 months or 24 months to achieve my goal of retiring my dad. It doesn't matter. I did the goal, right? And um, so since then, he's been crushing way over 6 figures a year. He's been buying apartments with me. Now he lives in Florida, and he like, I don't know what he does. He just plays video games or something, which is good. That's what dad should be doing. So, but my biggest why was helping out my family.
That is incredible. The why, it needs a few things tied to it. A lot of people, when asked their why, they don't know it, and you knew it. You just boom. But one of the pieces of really understanding your why is building legacy, not only in yourself, but legacy in others. And that's when it gets really, really powerful, when you're building legacy in other people's lives. So thank you for sharing that. That is incredible. That is incredible. Really love that. Um, Along the way in building this crazy business that you've got going on, which it sounds like it's bulletproof. Is it bulletproof?
Not bulletproof, but I do a very, very, very good job making sure that, during COVID, everything, that we are very well insulated.
Mhm. Fantastic. Along the way, I'm sure you've had some moments there where you thought, "Oh my goodness, we went wrong here. We did this right, or we did that wrong." What are some of the crucible moments? And maybe those crucible moments might not even be in your business. They might have been in your personal life that have pushed And one of the crucible moments was actually when you were 13 years old. That really gave you a mind shift and a change. Is there something else as you were moving towards that age of 19 where you said, I'm going to buy my first house, or 22 when you started flipping houses? Any crucible moments that just like, gosh, that was a huge challenge, but because of that, I'm here today
Yeah.
in this light or this capacity.
I will say your first deal, my mentor told me this, your first deal is harder than the next 10, and the next 10 are harder than the next 100. And it is so, so, so true. Your first deal is your hardest. I was terrified. I bought my first house. Then when I moved back home with mom and dad, I remember the first flip, I was still like, I bought it at an auction, sight unseen. I could not see the inside.
Yeah.
And it felt like a flashbang grenade went off. And I was like sweating, and I was like, just terrified. I was like, I just made the worst financial decision of my whole entire life. I just bought a house without knowing what it looks like on the inside, right? Very blessed it worked out. Um, I mean, there's moments where it's a lot of learning. You don't know what you don't know, and I try to surround myself with. I wish I'm moving right now. I have my lanyards. I have like 50 or 60 lanyards. I travel the country all over, and I learn from the greatest marketers, rehabbers, and investors in the world.
Mhm.
I think that's very, very important because you can learn by your own mistakes, or you can learn by other people's mistakes and
Mhm.
not have to witness them yourself, right? And that's where you asked about my business. I would say we're very blessed. Like right now, we always have a lot of cash in the bank. I'm very conservative that way. I grew up in 2008 recession. We only stick with first-time home buyer houses, the 1,000 square foot houses, so that when COVID happened, and the state of Michigan shut down for 45 days. It was illegal to look at real estate for 45 days. No one could look at it. My contractors couldn't work on them. Um, and I lost $18,000 in mortgages and non-homestead property taxes. I had like 10 houses at the time in 45 days. And I was able to sleep at night knowing that, like the world is ending, but we have some cash in the bank, and that we have these houses where we could even put a renter in them and still break even or even cash flow with our high interest rate hard money loans. Versus that's why I don't do luxury homes, because if I did luxury homes, then you're going to be losing money, if you had a long-term tenant in there.
Right on.
Um,
Well, let's do
so
this. Let's do this.
go
Let's
ahead.
let's transition a little bit into the journey, the professional journey of what you do, how you do it, what you look for. And let's just take somebody through, the 8, 9, 10, 12 steps in the next 10 minutes of how to be a pro at finding, fixing, and flipping homes.
Very good question. So, um, first of all, I'm very blessed. I have an amazing team around me. There's no way I can do this by myself. There's no way I can live 750 miles away from my houses that we buy, fix, and flip, and I haven't seen them in 2.5 years. I just look at photos because we have really good systems, processes, and team in place. So that's
Mm.
all up to them. So surround yourself with the best people. So that could be, and you're not going to start with a team, and neither did I, but you're going to like the title company that you use or attorney that you use to close the deals, insurance person. These are all people we talk to every single day. Our granite guy, hardwood floor guy, window guy. Surround yourself with the best contractors and people that you're going to work with, every single day. You're going to be calling one of them. Um,
By the way, I'm just going to stop it. That is incredible that, I mean, it is all about people. Everything is about people. And you've built an incredible team, yet you are thousands of miles away from where they're doing business or you're doing business.
mhm.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that idea, that concept. I mean, I can be 3, 4,000 miles away and have a business that is running, functioning, and doing extremely well. Um, Now that takes leadership. That takes a lot of leadership to make that happen. Did you have the team before you left? Did the team stay with you once
Oh,
you left? Did have you
yeah.
rebuild the team?
I'll talk about that. So we definitely had that built out before I left. I've had people who, when I started in 2017, still were with me on the first rehabs, the contractors who lay the floors, the doors, the trim, do everything, the cabinets. They've been with me for almost 10 years at this point.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing I can say, the biggest tips, you can write this down, everyone who's listening. This is the how so we love our team. We love on them. So birthday, they get birthday gifts. Every year we do annual all of our contractors and our subcontractors do we take them to Top Golf, or we do some cool dinner, drinks, and bring your wives and drinks and food, and they really feel appreciated. Then we give them bonuses. We give them Christmas bonuses. They're subcontractors, and they're not employees.
Yeah.
We still give them Christmas bonuses. Someone's wife was recently in the hospital. We send them a couple $100 gift basket with fruits and this and that and teddy bears, and like treat them like they're your best friends, because they will be. We talk to them every single day. I love these guys. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. Um, so and that's why they don't leave as well. They could probably make more money working with other people and doing other things. And one of the contractors used to do custom bathrooms and kitchens and crush it. But he loves our system because so in our company, we use the same cabinets, floors, doors, trim. It's the same thing over and over again. That's one of our secrets. We've McDonaldized it. So any house, they always look the same at the end. And he loves that because like there's no change orders. You're easy to deal with. You always pay when you say you will, versus going out and finding custom jobs. He's like, they don't pay. There's change orders. There's delays on the customer, and I'm losing money. So we make their lives extremely easy, and we love them to death. And that's how we built a really good team.
Hmm. Did you take some of that concept from when you worked at McDonald's? You called it McDonaldizing it.
Yeah. So it's funny. I did, because I used to build burgers for McDonald's for a year. And what I've learned is that if you go to New York, California, Canada, the Big Mac is always made the same. I used to know, that you put the patty, and then you put the cheese, and then you put the lettuce, the pickles, and the mac sauce. Um, And so the product is not the best, right? But it's consistent, it's predictable, you can go anywhere and it tastes the same and it gets the job done.
Yeah.
That's the way we do our houses. We do not have the nicest finishes, for these 1,000 square foot houses, and they're not bad. The quality is good, but we're not doing like barn doors or like quartz countertops, because these houses, we buy them in the hundreds, sell them in the twos. So these are first time home buyer homes. So we do new cabinets and floors and doors and granite, stainless steel package, and make it look very nice. Paint it all agreeable gray as our paint color. So it's the same thing over and over and over again, because if you have to think every time, it's not like HGTV coming, oh, we're gonna put $9 square foot tile here, and then we're gonna put some secret room and wall over here. That's all fake. You're not making money doing that.
No.
We're in the business of making money, not making the prettiest houses. And I know that it takes us about 4 weeks to get the day we buy a house. 4 weeks later, my guys will have it done, and I can have it listed for sale. And that's what's important. And that we maintain our margins. So I have, yeah, McDonaldized our housing, our flips.
Right. And you're a licensed realtor as well, correct?
Yeah, I haven't sold, or I just use it for the MLS access, but it's been like three
Okay.
years since I've sold anything. But yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So you've got a great team of contractors. Of course, you got to have a great real estate agent, or do you have
Hmm.
agents working on your behalf?
Great question. This is part of my team thing too. So I have Olivia, who's my office manager, and she is a BA. She's awesome. She runs my whole business, runs like multiple businesses. And when I met her, I knew she was like young and hungry, and she didn't know a lot about real estate. That's okay. I can teach you real estate. That's simple. But
Hmm.
I cannot teach you hungry. Um, when I hired her, she was making $35,000 a year working for my friend, actually. And I got my friend's permission to steal her. And I was like, oh, you're gonna make way more. So what I did, we have her like 40,000 base, and then, and this is my why too. This isn't my new why. I helped my dad out. This is what's really cool. She lists all of our houses. She got licensed as a realtor. She gets 1% of everything we sell. So I get a discount on, I used to sell my own houses, but now we get a discount instead of 3% listing, it's 1%. And then she's incentivized for a company to do really well, because the more houses we flip, the more money she makes. I have it so that everyone, even our contractors, are incentivized by performance, and everything we do, everyone makes more money. So since she's joined me in the last 3 years, she's made over $100,000 every single year for the last 3 years. And that's my new goal, is to make sure that she makes over six figures. And the cool thing is when you do that, this is like the whole like I love this, is now she has access money. She invests in our fix and flip. She invests in our multifamily deals, and she never would have been able to making $35,000 a year. She would not have access cash to do that. So now it's cool to see her life change and that she's an investor now, and her life's going to totally change for the rest of her life, that she's investing in real estate, and that it's just really cool to see that play out.
That is really cool. So you've got a revenue share model where everybody that works on your house or on your team is sharing in the profit or the revenue of your fix and flip. So I guess you have to be very transparent then. Say, this is what I bought it for. Here's all the numbers. Or how do you do that? How do you make everybody um, essentially a partner in your fix and flip?
Yep. So Olivia's base, she's got a base, and then she's got the commission thing. She gets 1% of everything we sell. Then with our contractors, so when I first used to do is pay our guys hourly. And I realized it didn't work because I would come into the job site and they're sitting on the paint bucket, smoking a cigarette, scrolling through Facebook, and like, hey, Mike, how's it going? And this is my first crew. They
Oh,
were, oh, dude, I was like, I sold my house. I'm living with my mom and dad. I make negative money. And I'm like, what are you doing? And like, get off your butt. Just get working. And I realized, okay, well, they're incentivized to work slower. So if they can install 10 cabinets in a day versus 4 days, they make more money doing that. So what I did is I created this standardized pricing sheet. This is what's one of the secrets to our success.
hmm.
Because if you go, and I took this, like I did auto tech in high school. If you go take your car, and I know nothing about cars. If you go take your car in and you need blinker light fluid for your car, right? You're low on blinker light fluid. And they say, hey, we charge $100 an hour. It's going to take 3 hours. So it's going to be $300. Okay, cool. That's what the customer pays. They can do the job in 20 minutes or they can do the job in 8 days. It doesn't matter. The customer's only paying that $300.
Yeah.
So I took that model and put that toward houses. I didn't see anything at the time with that. So how we do it is we pay, everything is broken down. We have a 350 line Excel spreadsheet of all the materials and items we do to a house. So kitchen cabinets, for example, we pay like $225 for the material and $50 for labor. So we pay $275 for every cabinet that's installed. Say kitchen's 10 cabinets for easy numbers. So we're paying $2,750. And of that's $500 in labor. So I asked my guys, how quick can you throw up 10 cabinets? Oh, I can do that in 4 hours. Cool. Would you like to make $500 in 4 hours? Yeah, let's do that. Boom. How much price per square foot for flooring, LVP flooring that we use? We pay $2 a square foot. It's 1,000 square foot house. How long is it gonna take you to lay 1,000 square foot? Oh, we can get that done in a day and a half. Cool. You want to make $2,000 in a day and a half? Cool. Let's go do that. So I got that for doors, trim, door handles, light bulbs. I have it really broken down for everything.
Oh,
So what we've done is incentivize them to work faster. It took our rehab times from about 6.5 to 7 weeks to 4 weeks for the same house, which saves us on hard money costs, property taxes, all those overhead expenses that you accumulate. And now they show up early, stay late, and they're ready for the next house because the faster they work, the more money they make. And now they can, instead of a crew maybe only doing 6 houses a year, now we can get a crew to maybe do around 10 houses a year because they're working faster.
love it. Absolutely love it. That is genius. I'm sure a few others have modeled your standardization of that because that is absolutely a genius move. Love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Would that be your biggest idea yet on fix and flip? Has that been the
Yeah.
needle mover the most?
It took me thousands of hours to put together and tens of thousands of dollars. And I've hired 3 developers to put this together because I'm not that smart. But I knew that because now we know our exact rehab costs before we even buy a house. We can get to a 90% accuracy because we can fill out the whole entire sheet.
Mm.
Again, there'll be things that pop up, right? But you can get to 90% accuracy for your material and labor. So I know exactly what it's going to cost, like to 90% accuracy before I even buy the house. So that has been the game changer.
Amazing, amazing. What a secret sauce that is. I'm sure you've got others asking you about that secret sauce. Do you sell that? Do you coach it? Do you mentor it?
Yeah,
What is it?
yeah. We do sell it. I know. Yeah, we do. It's in our training programs. And yes, like you said, like everyone's like, "Oh my God, like it yeah, and I should sell it for more. I've thought about making that software, but right now it's in an Excel spreadsheet and we all of our students get access to it."
Fabulous. That is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go a different route with the fix and flips because I've sold many, many fix and flips. I've helped buyers and sellers do this over and over again. And there's times that I literally say to them, and maybe you're going to tell me something other than what I've told them, but I say, here's the keys. Now go put them in a drawer and call me in 6 months. Do not do any work to this home because the market is moving so fast that I find that they go and spend all this energy on the fix and flip, and they really don't make any that much more money than if they would just throw the keys in a drawer. Have you seen that play out for yourself?
Yeah, so we've in 2020, 21, 22, when interest rates were at 2.875% in the States. Um, I I've bought houses and then I've cleaned them out and taken better photos and relisted them for more money, right? I mean, things were crazy. Things have slowed down since then. Canada's probably different. Um,
No,
things have
it's the
slowed
same
down.
market everywhere in North America. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things have slowed down since then. I actually noticed this month, March, actually picked up a lot. We had a couple houses for sale and they all just went pending in March. I think 4 houses just went like right off the shelf. So I'm noticing picking up right now. Um, I have not done that. I believe that if you are not an expert contractor, because I run a construction business, this is what I basically do. And I have my numbers dialed in. So I can take on big rehab projects. I can take on a lot of projects that most people can't and probably should not do. Um, and my guys are begging for houses. But I do believe that, yes, you could probably do that model. And honestly, I've even thought about buying it in the winter and just selling it in the summer. And there's a huge price difference with that alone. Um, but yeah, I want to hear you talk more about that.
Well, you have it dialed in where a lot of these folks are coming into the marketplace and I'm going to do my first fix and flip,
Yeah.
and I don't know what their team looks like. I don't understand their intent, their execution, all that. And so I've seen a lot of fix and flips go bad
Hmm.
or, not make money or lose money. And so, I got to the point where I'd size up the potential fix and flipper. I say, on this one, this is a great deal and you should buy it, but do as my friend Mike does, clean it up, take some new photos, let me do the marketing for you. And I think we can probably turn around and make some good coin in a matter of 4 weeks,
Few
maybe
months.
maybe
Yeah.
8 weeks, maybe we let it sit for a few months and let the market actually, continue to boil. But you've got something really unique where you know your numbers to a T. You've got a team, and you want to keep that team rolling too. Of course, you don't
Hmm. Yeah, I
have.
need to.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's different for me, but I believe for the average consumer, yes. And honestly, like you said, like listing them in the spring, summer, and then buy them in the winter, spring, summer. I think honestly that is the best way. There's been a lot of houses I've looked at. I'm like, oh, I could just make. I've looked at them and I know I could clean them up, make 40 grand, or have my team go in there, make 50 grand, and wait a few more months and deal with the headache. And I'm like, but I have to keep my guys busy.
yeah.
So I'm like, I have to send my guys in there because they're begging for work. But trust me, there's a lot of houses. I'm like, man, if I didn't have these guys, just make the same amount of money with no work. So
Yeah.
yes.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, let's shift gears a bit. We're going to go into leadership and a little bit of your vision and so forth. And um, has there anything? And you've had an incredible, incredible run from a very, very young age, but has there been anything that's maybe limited your success that you now look back on and go, gosh, I wish I would have done that a little differently? And, we've got listeners from all over the world here that probably, are in this space or thinking about this space. What are some of the things that have limited your success looking back?
Very good question, man. That's, you're smart. You ask really good questions. Yes. And honestly, it's what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. That's the biggest, it's the biggest thing. I mean, my first flip, I'll never forget. I bought my house, like when I moved back home with mom and dad, I bought a house for 50 grand, sight unseen. The neighbor next door sold for 35,000. It's a little bit smaller. And I only used my cash. That was my 67,000 bucks I had left over. And I moved back home with mom and dad. I put my life savings to this house. And I was like, oh, I would love the house right next door. It's a neighborhood I grew up in. And it's actually 2 streets over from the house I sold for 140 grand. So I knew the comps. I was like, oh my God, it's a perfect comp. And I thought I had to use my money. I did not know you could leverage other people, you could borrow money, and everything I know today. Because I missed out on $40,000 next door. Like that's how much I made the first house. I could have next door, boom, another 40 grand. I urge everyone surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. This is why I travel. Like I said, I've been to like about 40 to 50 conferences in a very short time. I go on 4 to 6 a year. This by the end of April, I would have gone on four real estate events this year, right?
Mm.
And because you learn one thing and it can change your business forever.
Yeah.
I learned one thing from this rehabber in my mentorship group, and how she sets up her houses before she sells them. And I've been doing this, and every single year we make about an extra $100,000 per year by implementing this few things that she does, this little checklist that she does. And we put this in all of our houses. We make about $10,000 to $20,000 extra per house, and it makes a huge difference. And then we do the same thing for our multifamily business. On one of our properties, we just increased the value by $200,000 by inputting this same checklist, because it's the same concept. It's just there's more zeros in apartments, right?
Right.
So my biggest thing that held me back is not knowing what I didn't know. So surround yourself. Like I just bought a house last month on the lake for 2.25% interest because I got seller financing, right? And that's why it's very important to understand how seller financing works, because right now rates are at 6.5% for the same house. So it's very important to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you and who are at where you want to be, and just be a sponge and just learn as quick as possible.
Yeah. The power of proximity is invaluable. And having influencers in your life that lead, guide, mentor, coach, whatever, is so, so important. But you got me curious about this checklist. Can you tease us with anything from the checklist? Because making an extra 20K on a house is nothing to kind of go, it's just 20. It's 20K.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some things. Yeah, I'll spill the beans on some of it. So actually, like, like staging your houses.
Mm.
We used to rent staging furniture, and I'll never forget this. It was like 1,700 bucks. And a company came out, they put up the furniture, and I was like, this is all IKEA stuff. I'm like, trust me, I know. I lived on IKEA stuff at the time. And so what I did is I took my phone and I looked at behind of everything. I took photos of it was IKEA. So then I ordered everything. It cost $2,200 to order everything, 1,700 to rent it. And if you go over 3 months, and they charge you a couple $100 a month, or 2,200 to own it. So then what we did is we bought all of our furniture. I got a 10 by 10 self-storage facility in the area, and then we put the furniture in there when we're not using it. Now we have two kits, and we use it for every house over and over again. And I pay my guys $200 to set it up, $200 to take it down. So we pay 400 instead of 1,700. So we save, I don't know what that is, 1,300, and we've used it dozens and dozens of times, these staging furnitures, right? So staging your houses. I also recommend measuring your houses. You can get a lot of extra square foot. I've noticed about 20% of the time, houses are mismeasured on the public records, and it's actually bigger than what public record says. So for example, on my apartment building, it said it was 14,000 square feet. It was actually 16,000 square feet. You have an extra 2,000 square foot. The property rents at $1 a square foot. So that means I can charge an extra $2,000 a month. It's $24,000 a year. And at that cap rate basis is an extra couple $100,000 just right there, just by measuring your properties.
Amazing. Pro tip number two. So staging and remeasuring your properties. Pro tips. Very, very good. Love that, Mike. Hey, what's your daily schedule look like? Because you're, highly successful. I'm sure you run hot. I'm sure you're doing lots of things. You got more things going on than you can, shake a stick at. What's your day and your routine look like?
That's a good question. Um, you know, we wake up. I'm an old man. I'm 78 years old secretly. I drink decaf black coffee in the morning. I need like 30 minutes of listening to music on the couch before I can like function drinking decaf black coffee. Um, but it's honestly, I feel very, very, very extremely blessed. So people ask me like, what's the definition of success for you? And I love your podcast name, because mine is freedom of time.
Mm.
I people ask me like, do you believe you're successful? I do, and it's not about the money I have, it's because of the time I have. And I don't have an alarm in the morning. And that is very freeing to me, because I have work jobs where you have to get up and you sleep. Like actually, I got last night, I didn't sleep that well. I was up for like 3 hours in the middle of the night from like 2 to like 5 in the morning. I fell back asleep and I woke up at 8, which is late for me. But it's nice to be like, hey, I can like sleep in a little bit because I was up last night, right? And to have that autonomy and that control of your life. Because I hated, if you didn't sleep well, you still had to get up, go to work. Now your day's all messed up and you're pissed off. You got to drive to a job. Um, so my daily schedule though, wake up, I drink decaf black coffee. Takes me 30, 40 minutes to function, and then I come right to my desk and I'm very blessed. My girlfriend behind me, she's a nurse online, so she works from home as well, so allows us to travel a lot. I usually work till about 12 till 2 p.m. and then we go to the gym, we work out for 30, 45 minutes, come back, and then I end my day probably around 5. So I'm usually working like 8 to 5, um, which is nice because I used to work from eyes open to eyes shut. And if you're young and you're in your 20s and 30s, take advantage of the youth and energy you have because I mean, I look back at 19, I was rehabbing a house, on YouTube, learning how to tile, going to community college. I was waiting tables, and I was at intern at a financial planning firm. And I'm like, how did I do all that? Now I'm, mid 30s. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, by 5 o'clock, I got to throw in the towel. I'm done. So if you're young, I highly recommend using your youth and energy and time that you have now to really go for it because, and I can see like, as I'm getting older, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it's going to be harder and I'm not going to want to work 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day as I get older.
I might be wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't strike me as somebody that all your friends are doing the same thing you were doing. You're blazing a new trail, and
Yeah.
you were doing something different. Am I right? And what can you share with somebody that's 19 or 20 listening now that they should take some advice from this fellow named Mike that's carved out a pretty impressive life. I'm not talking money, I'm just talking life.
Mhm.
You've got a life that is enviable.
Yeah.
So what's
I'm
the
very
advice?
blessed. And I will say, I lost a lot of friends when I bought that house, all my high school friends. And it's not something that you realize, because there's envy and jealousy, and I get it. And I'm not an envious and jealous guy. When my friend, anyone who's successful, I'm like cheering them on, like, and you realize most people aren't like that, and that's okay. So you being successful, you actually will lose friends. You will get people who are jealous of you, and that's okay. That's why too I go to so many events. Because a lot of these events I go to, like I'm in Rod Cleve's group and I go 4 events a year and I don't learn anything, but it's because everyone at the event's like my best friend and I can relate to them because you feel like you're on an island sometimes. Like you said, like none of my friends are doing this. They all have jobs. They're living their life and mine's completely different. We travel every winter for 6 weeks. We go to Aruba and the cruises in Florida. And And you got to be okay with, you're going to be losing friends. And actually, I had a hard time with being successful when the first time we took a winter off for 6 weeks, and I knew my guys were in Michigan and it was negative below zero, and I didn't post it on Facebook because of that reason. My contractors are working. I really felt guilt because I was like, wow, how come like I was in the Keys at this time, and like I was like, "Ah, should I be doing this?" I really felt guilty because I knew my guys were -20 dealing with snow and these moldy houses, and I'm like, I really felt guilty. So um my recommendation is surround yourself with people. That's why I say surround yourself with people and learn, but also these people I go to these events with are my best friends because they're successful and they're a way much older than me. My best friends are in their 50s and 60s. Because we're just, I'm not too many people in their 20s and 30s live the way I do. So I have to relate to people who are older because they get to travel for the winters and have successful businesses. So that's why it's really important to surround yourself with successful people, because it is lonely and hard sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's finish it off with a little bit of curious questions. Um,
Yeah.
do you ever doubt yourself?
Do I ever doubt myself? Yeah, I have doubted myself. So again, I'll never forget this. This is actually really funny looking back. I flipped 40 houses in up to 2020. Then I bought my first apartment building, a 6 unit, and I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh. And you would think like, oh, you flipped 40 houses, a little 6 unit apartment building, right? I was terrified. It's so funny looking back. Now a 6 unit's too small. I'm like, that's too small. I'm not gonna look at this thing. It's funny how perspective changes. And what I did is I learned like who. It's always not like what, or I forgot that it's a book, but it's like the who can help you. And what I did is I actually partnered with someone who had 40 something units that he owned and managed at the time. I said, hey, I will give you majority of the deal. I will handle the rehab. I want to get into this business. I just don't want to mess up. I've never collected rent before. Can you collect rents, do leases? That terrifies me. I have no idea. I can rehab the units. I'll give you majority of the deal. Just make sure I don't mess up. I was like, sure, this is a great deal for me, right? I get like majority of the equity and all the upside, and so I leveraged like that relationship. And then once I did it, I went through the whole process. And I was like, okay, it's not that bad and scary, right? And then we bought an 11 and then a 16, 17 unit. And now we own all these apartments together. But yeah, I do doubt myself. And so what I recommend is reaching out to people who a little 6 unit. I reached out to someone who had 40 something and he's like, six is nothing. Like, right? Put it on my plate. So that's how I dealt with that doubt.
Yeah. Doubt is, I think, not a negative. It's actually a way for you to it's not saying no. When at least I look at doubt this way. I don't say, hey, just because I'm doubting this doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. But it's a way for me to pause, slow down. It's a speed bump just to rethink it. And then what you said, it's about who, not how. And there's a great book, Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy have this book called It's Who, Not How, which is a great read. And really, it's about finding the who's when you don't know how to do the how. And it sounds like that's what you've done. So amazing stuff. That's really, really great. Are you on your way to a billionaire mindset?
That's a good question. I no, I have zero desire for that. It's funny. I got friends who do. They want private jets, and God bless them. My thing is time. Do you know what my favorite thing is I'm blessed when I can go out to a restaurant, any restaurant, anytime, not look at the menu. What really puts a smile on my face is like when I helped my father, and then 2 years ago, I took my mom to the Keys when we were in the Keys doing this trip. I called her up and said, Mom, have you ever been to the Keys before? She's like, no, your dad's too cheap. I was like, okay, I'll take it. No, she didn't say that. But she's like, I've never been before. I said, okay, I'm going to drive down. I'm going to pick you up because I live in Florida. And I'm like, we're going to go to the Keys. And I took my mom there and I got her hotel room. And we were down there for like 5 or 6 days. And to spend time with my mom and like paid for the food and drinks and everything. And doing that without having to think about the price and it's not going to negatively impact me. And that's all the money in the world because my mom's not going to be around forever and I love her and she's a great mother. Um, experiences like that and like helping my dad are worth more than like I have a cool Maserati, I have a house on the lake, I have all these boats, toys. It doesn't matter, I promise you. And it's hard until you get there to realize it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
what really does matter is spending time with your family. And so now I'm just doing what I love. I'm very blessed to be like buying apartments, working 7 hours a day if I want, being able to take a break and go to the gym with my girlfriend. That I will sell everything to not change that part of my life. Like
Mm.
none of the cars and toys matter. It's the time you get to spend with your loved ones.
Awesome, awesome. Mike has found ROL. I can hear it in your voice. Your answers all speak about the return on life, and that is incredible. Love it, just absolutely love it. Let's finish off with a speed round. Are you
Yeah.
ready?
Yep, I'm
Okay.
ready.
Or anything else you want to share that you think our listeners should hear about? I have one more question,
But
actually. I have one more
yeah,
question. You're buying, so I love this. The concept of making money and excessive money so that you can go out and buy holding properties and apartment buildings, which is
yeah,
exactly my formula too. I've been selling real estate for 30 plus years. I've earned a lot of commissions, and all of that money that I've earned, I've all poured back into investment properties of some sort, apartment buildings, industrial parks, mini storage, all that kind of stuff. So I love what you're doing. And most of mine is with a couple of partners. Do you have
yeah.
more than one partner, two partners? Do you find different partners for every building that you buy?
Good question. Very good question. So it started off with that six. It was me, my father, and my partner Adam. So it's three of us, and we did that for the first 60 units. And then my dad, he's more interested. He's a builder. He's built a few houses, and he's so sick of our 1980 apartments. He's like wants to do new stuff. So he's focusing on building new stuff. So it's really just me and my partner Adam. And we've been using our cash up to this point. The last two deals, we've actually been inviting friends and family, and they can participate. And so we've been doing joint ventures and syndications
Mm,
with our friends and family. And so we manage the deal, we find the deal, and they get the benefit of being a passive investor.
love that. Love that. Leverage. And they get to leverage you. Leverage is a great word. It's not a
It
negative
is.
word. And they're leveraging all of your expertise, knowledge, time.
Randy, okay, let me interrupt. So, like, sorry, if you're like a real estate investor, you provide such a great service because instead of them earning at Chase Bank 0.25% a year, I have a guy who called me as $1 million sitting in his checking account or savings account.
Ouch.
And he's like, Mike, I need to get this moving because rich people understand that inflation is eating it away and they
Yes.
have to have deals. And he doesn't have time. We spend over $100,000 a year of our own capital looking for discounted real estate. We just bought a 44 unit apartment building. Day one appraised for $200,000 more. So our investors already got an 8% return on their money the day they signed the paperwork, and
Mm,
we are projected to increase the value by another 50% in the next 18 to 24 months. That is something that unless you do this full time and you understand these numbers and you understand the market, you cannot do as a full-time doctor, real estate agent, attorney, whatever your profession is. This is my full-time gig. And like you said, they're leveraging me because I have the construction experience. I find amazing deals at 50, 60 cents on the dollar, and they don't have the time and energy to do that. So yes, like you
love it.
said, leverage is great.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, speed round. Here we go. Fine
Okay.
dining, takeout, Uber Eats, or home cooked meal. What are you doing?
Oh my goodness. I love Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't I'm so like I get that I eat Buffalo Wild Wings twice a week. I don't know why I love Buffalo Wild Wings. So we DoorDash is my like I delete the app. It's kind of like it's like a I delete the app every for a few months.
That's awesome. What do you do to let your hair down? What do you do for fun? You just go, hey, I got an afternoon
Mm.
and
Oh
nothing
yeah.
matters. What are you doing? Are you on the lake? What are you doing?
Yeah, oh yeah, your background. I love it. I'm on the lake out here. I'm a part of a boat club. We have pontoons and wake surf boats. So we go wake surfing, we got pontoons that we do. Like So I have a chiropractor friend who doesn't work on Fridays, and so every like Friday in the summer, if it's 80 and sunny, we're out on the lake.
Love it, love it. Music, is music important to you?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, typically you'd hear it in the background probably. Usually, it's kind of surprising I don't have it, but yeah, I listen to music like I said in the morning with my black coffee till at night.
Favorite band?
Uh, I like Morgan Wallen. I like the country music, and I don't know why I like that poppy country. So like I like Morgan Wallen.
Awesome, awesome. Do you prefer text, email, phone call, or some other way of
Text,
communication? Text.
text. If
Okay.
you call me, it's gonna be 7 to 8 business days before I get back to that. And
Oh,
emails, I have 400 emails from we got back from a cruise last week, and I'm like, well, nothing's burnt down, so that's good. I got 400 emails to go through.
wow, wow, wow. Audible or book?
Uh, Good question. Very good question. I'm dyslexic. I like Audible, but it doesn't. I need to. So what I do is I write notes.
Mm,
I struggle with the physical book. Actually, I'm reading this book right here, because I have to pause it so often, and I have my Word document, and I'm constantly writing, so it's easier to do it on a book. But I like Audible, but it takes me a 4 hour book takes me 16 hours because I keep pausing it and writing notes.
mm. Well, you're getting lots out of that book. That's fantastic. Last question, bit of a trick question. If you were a scratch and sniff sticker, a scratch and sniff sticker, and
Ooh,
scratched your shoulder, what would I smell? What would be the aroma I would smell?
a margarita.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Margarita with a little bit of sea breeze in it, right?
exactly. Yeah, it'd be exactly 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, well, this has been fantastic. Mike, you've been a great guest. You've given us so many incredible, incredible nuggets to go away, whether you're a fix and flipper, whether you're a mindset, whether you're 19 years old and thinking, what does this life of mine have for me? You've just been awesome. So I want to thank you, Mike. Thanks for being a guest on the Return on Life podcast.
Thank you very much, Randy, for having me.
You're welcome.